I'm Roz Clark, and I am known as the Dream Doula. And the reason that that is because I really do believe that our dreams are the roadmap to our destiny. And so, as we set our intentions and we set our heart and we set ourselves in the direction that we believe that we're meant and called to do, there are just things that come up in life often. And, we sometimes we don't know why, sometimes they're unexpected, sometimes they're of our own choosing and making. And so we have to find that way back to center, find that way back to peace. And especially if there are situations that are disappointing, or that we feel that we may have been wronged, or that something was not fair. And, so we have to find our way to making peace. And what I can say for myself, I left a toxic and dysfunctional marriage after 30 years, and left with the highest of intentions and integrity, and things went like 50 shades of crazy. And so I didn't expect what happened after I left, because I was so clear when in the process of leaving. And so I had to find a way to make peace with that situation, to release and make peace. And so as I continue to do the spirit work, the meditation, the breath work, all of those things, it was very interesting, because my journey, my goal was peace. and, and I had to go through the path of forgiveness to get to peace. And so, is there anybody in the room, you can put in the chat, have you had that experience that you were in a situation, you thought it was one thing, it became another, and you were looking for peace, and through the process you had to find a way to forgive? Has anybody had that experience? Put a one in the chat if you've had to forgive situations that may not have felt like it was fair. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, one. Yeah, we've had those situations where it's like, wait a minute, but I didn't do anything, and then here we are. And like I said, we have to find that way. Yes, forgiving is really hard sometimes. We have to find that way to release and let go. And the thing that I have found, because in my work as a dream doula, I work with women who are looking to reconnect with their passion and their purpose. And a lot of times the women I work with are in, they're women of affluence and influence, and they're like, I should be happy. I've got everything. I worked for all of this, and then I got there and it was like not what I expected or not what I wanted. And so on that path to finding our way back to what is peace, or what's going to bring me joy, or what's going to bring me fulfillment and satisfaction, like I said, as we pass through that road of forgiveness, a lot of times what makes forgiving so hard is because it feels so unfair. It just feels so unfair. And yet we learn that forgiveness is not for them. It is the gift that we give to ourselves. It's that gift of being able to release and let go. And what I will say, because like when I mention having spiritual practices, whether it's a meditation practice, whether it's a faith practice, whether it's a yoga practice, whether it's a breathing practice, even though we have all of these tools and techniques, we have to leave room and space for our humanity. You know what I mean? Because like none of us are going to just be levitating all the time. As much as we want to, move at a higher vibration or whatever that is, there are times that in our humanity, in our flesh, in our even in our ego, it's like, I don't like this. I don't like how this feels. And so, how do we get to those places and spaces that we can say, okay, I'm going to do this because I need to live the best and highest version of who I am meant to be? And so, how do I do that? So, we've talked about forgiveness. The other thing that I want to touch on is taking ownership of our part of what happened. And, of course, our first defense is like, no, but I did everything right. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And yet, what I have found in life is that we don't always attract what we want, we attract who we are. And that can be a really uncomfortable thing to sit with. It's like I didn't attract what I wanted. I attracted who I was. And it's like, well, wait a minute, how does that happen? Because I believe myself to be good. I believe myself to be kind. I believe myself to be, that person who is doing everything that I can for everyone else. And, I'll use myself as an example because for a long, long time, I identified as a rescuer. And so on the surface, being a rescuer is like, well, wow, that's wonderful. You're a rescuer. And yet, what I realized is that if I identify as a rescuer, then I'm attracting people who need to be rescued from whatever that might be. And what I've learned now over time and over experiences, everything like that, language has power. And so now I identify as a healer and I help people on their healing journey. So now I don't have to bring the drama and the da 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 part that served a part of me. What I realize in hindsight is I I was rewarded for being strong. All my life I was rewarded for being strong. I was rewarded for being a leader. I was rewarded for being what I thought was a rescuer. And yet I created a dynamic and a situation in my life that didn't serve me. So, can anybody relate to that? Put a two in the chat if you have realized that you've created situations and dynamics that don't always serve you. Yeah. So, sometimes it's, well, she's the one that fixes everything, or she's the one that'll make the decisions, or he's the one that our go to guy that we can always count on. And so we create these dynamics and we create these situations, and we don't, at first, we don't realize how we got here. How did, let's say that is the thing of taking our power back, is that when we can take ownership of our part, because it's only our part that we can fix, it's only our part that we can change. And so, like I said, when I thought I was a rescuer and I was trying to fix people, you're not going to fix anyone, because people have to make a decision. I love in the scriptures how many times, Jesus said, wilt thou be made whole? Will you be healed? So it wasn't like, come here, let me heal you. It was like, do you want to be healed? Is that what you're seeking? And whatever the spiritual text or practice that you look at, I believe that it takes that first step. In the Jewish community, it's around covenant. We're making a covenant with one another. So there's always a choice in how we show up in relationship, how we show up in the world, how we identify what we do and who we are and how we show up. So that then if we begin to change what we do energetically, like the energy that we're putting out, like, yes, come here, let me rescue you. Or it's like, oh, you're ready to grow, you're ready to heal. Let me work with you, let me walk with you, let me share. And so that is where the same gifts and talents that I had before are now directed in such a more productive way, because I can help people to identify those areas where they're not, living their best and highest life, or where they're not serving their highest good. And I can support and serve and lead and direct. And yet I'm not taking myself out of who I'm meant to be and how I'm meant to show up in the world. And so at the end of the day, the relationships are just so much, they're healthier. They're just more healthy. And so I think that those are the things that, we really need to look at. So we look at the pathway to peace is, through, like I said, through forgiveness. And then the pathway is also through, taking ownership of our part in it. And here's the interesting thing: when we begin to take ownership of our part, sometimes the forgiveness work is we have to forgive ourselves, you know? And so many times we're more apt to forgive others than we are to forgive ourselves. And so we have to find a way to be gentle with ourselves. We have to find a way to say, I operated on what I knew, and now I know something different. And so I get to move in a different direction. And in moving in a different direction, I don't have to judge everything that happened in the past. And I think that that's a big thing, because again, my work as a dream doula, helping people to live the lives of their dreams and their aspirations. And so many times we'll end up in a space that it's like, oh, how did I get here? Or, oh, I made a mess of everything, or whatever that is. And yet, no, even the awakening that we have, that moment where we awaken and we say, okay, this doesn't feel good, because discomfort is a gift. Discomfort lets us know that it's time for growth, it's time for change, it's time to move through into the next iteration of who we are and who we're meant to be. And so if we create a space and grace for that, that doesn't judge that situation, and yet we say to ourselves, okay, that's what I knew then, this is what I know now, and I need to move in a new way or in a different way. And that different doesn't mean that what we did before is wrong. Like, I have clients who no longer want to live in live or work in a C-suite, so they're like, this was good and I went after it and I did a really good job. And now I want more meaning in my life. I want to do something that has a greater impact. And so that doesn't mean that all the work that they did in the corporate world was wrong. It just means that they're complete in that area and they're moving on to the next. So how many people in the room are ready to move to next, or feel like there's something more that we're going towards, or we need to move in a different direction? Put me in the chat. Just put me in the chat if you feel like this is a time of transition, a time of change, a time of growth, a time of awareness. Yes, a lot of me's. I love that. I love that. And so what I would say, and before I open it up, so we can have a little bit more conversation, I really want you to think um, the stories that you tell yourself, because mindset is everything. When we tap into our mindset, when we tap into how we think, because like I said, our words have power, and the power of our words come from a thought. And then the transformational part of it comes from a feeling. So what is playing on repeat in your head? Because a lot of times it's like, oh, it's too late. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I made a mess, or whatever it is. We don't play the recording that says, wow, I learned so much from that. Or, well, know what not to do. You know what I mean? So you take that moment where you have some gentleness and some love and some grace for yourself, and that we begin to um, again, there's another scripture that says, bringing every thought into captivity, that we capture those thoughts before they get to running around. Because every thought that comes into your head doesn't have to come out of your mouth, doesn't have to come into fruition, doesn't even have to be thought. If a thought comes that doesn't serve you, you can just say, oh, wow, okay, I see you and I release you. I see you and I release you, because you're not for me. You're not for my highest good. And it takes time. And for those who are just coming in the room, what I was saying earlier is that even when we're doing this work, when we're doing this work of growing, when we're doing this work of evolving, when we're doing this work of becoming the best and highest version of ourselves, it does not mean that we don't have human moments. We don't have moments that we're angry, or we don't have moments that even we're resentful, whatever that is. And so we can look at that. We can even sit with it for a minute and ask it, what is this here to teach me? Why did this come up for me? What about this is making me angry? Where is this anger coming from? So, again, like, we're not walking through life levitating all the time. We do live as high, on a high vibration as much as we can. And yet if we come out of it, that's why we have prayer. That's why we have meditation. That's why we have yoga or qigong or whatever that is. That's why we work on breath work. And like I said, the big thing is that's why we work on what is our mind, why we do mindset resets, why we check in, why we tune in, and we ask better questions. I love Tony Robbins says all the time, if you ask better questions, you'll get better answers. So instead of asking the question of why do things always happen to me, because that's a disempowering question. Or if the same thing keeps happening, why does this always happen to me? That's a disempowering question. But if we ask the question, what is this here to teach me? What do I need to learn from this? How do I need to grow from this? What needs to change? When we start asking ourselves better questions, then we get much, much better answers. So I hope that this is serving, everybody. Is anybody getting anything from this? Just show me some love in the in on the Hickey Doos if you're getting anything from it, if it's resonating with you. Cool, cool, cool. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So look, I am totally ready to take some questions and or reiterate or whatever that is. And so just to keep, to honor the room, to honor the space, to honor everybody else that's in here, I would just encourage you that, first raise your hand so we know that you're ready to speak. And then if it's a question, let's get straight to the question and just say, my question is, and then ask the question. And then if we need some clarifying information around it, then we can go back to that. But let's start with the question so that I can, serve as much as I can, or if somebody has something that they want to share, I welcome that as well. So is there anybody that wants to raise their hand and ask a question or have a share? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Not ready yet? All righty. Come on, Jeff.
Thanks, Roz. I appreciate it very much. You struck something when you said that one of the things that we need to do is forgive ourselves. So my question to you is, how do I forgive myself, Roz, when myself constantly wants to beat myself up?
Yeah, that's, oh God, what a great question. So what I would say is, in the process, and just even how you worded it, how do I forgive myself when myself wants to beat myself up? So the self that wants to beat yourself up, you say to that self, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I understand you, and I know that there is an energy that you need to go somewhere, and yet this is not going to help us. So you beating us up or us beating ourselves up is not going to help us. So let's talk about, or let's sit with the sad, the afraid, the angry, whatever that is, let's acknowledge it. I acknowledge the hurt and it's okay. And I love you. So whether it's the hurt little boy that's lashing out, if it's the hurt rebellious teen that's lashing out, see them and love them and speak directly to their pain. And even if you're not sure where it's coming from, just ask that question. Where is it coming from? And love that iteration of you that needs to say, no, it's always like this, or you should have done better, or you should have known better. And then you just say, I knew what I knew when I knew it. And that's all that I know. And now that I know something different, I can tell you that I love you. I can tell you that I loved you then. I just did the best that I could then. And let's release this. Let's do the work to release this and move forward. Does that help?
Oh, wow. I could not write fast enough. I am so happy this is recorded because I get to go back and listen what you just said, Rob. I love it. I knew what I knew at the moment that I knew it. So I did the best that I can. I think I have a tendency to look from where I'm at now back and go, why didn't I know different? But I
Yeah.
couldn't have known different because I didn't know different because I hadn't figured it out yet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It's like that old saying when, when you're younger, it takes 21 years to be 21 years old.
Mhm.
It's the same thing as we grow. Who I was in my 20s or my 30s or even my 40s, I'm not anymore. And it's okay that who I was lived that part of my life. And now who I am gets to live the next part of it.
Thank you very much, Coach. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. My pleasure, my pleasure. So yeah, just such a good question, and just I see your hearts, and I appreciate you. I so appreciate you being in the room. And sometimes I know that we may not quite be ready to talk yet, or quite be ready to share, and that is so super okay. And yet in this process, just making sure that because peace resonated with you, finding a pathway to peace resonated with you, so that whatever it is that you need to have peace from or make peace with, and kind of to Jeff's question, like we have to make peace with our past. It's just like that's what I did. That was the choice that I made. That's who I was at that time. And so when we make peace with, and even today, like we can make peace with today at the end of each and every day, we can just say, you know what? I did the best that I could. And sometimes it might be that voice that says, no, you didn't. And so even if that's the thing, you say, well, you know what? That one part that I may not have done the best that I could in that moment, it felt like the best for me. And so I'm going to go with that. And so when we choose joy, and when we choose peace, and like I said, and even when we choose to own our part in it, because so many times, and I'm grateful I get invited on a lot of different podcasts, or in forums and things like that. And when people are talking about change, a lot of times, um, it comes from a place of anger. And I get that, because having, stayed in a marriage for 30 years, determined to make it work, and to honor my word, and to honor my commitment, and all of that, some people would come out of it and say, oh my God, I wasted the best part of my life. No, I didn't. No, I didn't, because I show up each and every day living the best and highest version of myself. So this day is the best day of my life. And if I am graced to see tomorrow, my goal is to be a better me tomorrow than I was today, so that I can continue to show up that way and keep growing, and keep being the best and highest version of who I get to be. And even that language, who I get to be, who I choose to be, because I fully believe that life is not happening to us, life is happening for us, and life is happening through us. And so when we make the choice to tap into what it is that we believe is for the greatest good and for the highest good, that is an incredible place and space to live from. So, that's what I would just really encourage everyone to just make your choice today. So many people are looking at this season of change, this time of change. And so just know that in the process of changing, in the process of growing, the only person in whatever situation that you can change is you. And then it becomes making choices. So first it's about change and then it's about choices. So when I've done all the work, or when you've done all the work to make the changes that you want to see in yourself and in your life, then it comes down to, well, now I have to make a choice. Do I stay in this situation? Do I stay in this circle? Do I stay in this relationship? And I'm not only talking about romantic relationships, because remember, like, I work with a lot of people who are transitioning careers. And so if you feel, if Monday is a day of dread for you, then it's probably a clue that something needs to change. And so you begin to make those choices to change. And what I feel really strongly about, and it's one of the things that I do in the work that I do, is I believe that financial freedom is the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves and to our loved ones. And that means different things for different people. And so if you're locked into a situation that doesn't serve you, and then you can create a plan, that whether it's a parallel plan or whatever, that you begin to create the freedom that you need, that you can have that moment of imagining. Just imagine what your life would look like if you were doing what you love, being paid well for doing it, and you had the freedom to spend the time with the people who are most important to you. Imagine what that would look like. And so when I talk about being a dream doula, I'm not talking about pie in the sky dreams. I am talking about, I say it all the time, and it's actually on my thing, think big and dream even bigger, like allowing yourself to dream again. So, because so many times life happens to us and we stop dreaming because we switch into survival mode and we're just surviving. And so, if we can begin to have those mindsets and take those opportunities to dream again, to grow again, to listen to that voice in us that says, "Oh wow, I always wanted to be that. I always wanted to do that, or I always wanted to be a part of making something happen, something that matters to me, that I can help and support other people to do what matters to them." Those are the things that we want to make sure that, we keep showing up fully and authentically as our highest self. And like I said, we allow ourselves to dream, like really, really dream. So put a 3 in the chat if you have a dream that you still want to go after. Yes, we got a 3. Any other dreamers in the room? Big dreams. Yes, another 3. Yeah, dreaming, dreaming. Yeah, allowing yourself to dream. Yes, 3, 3, 3. Yes, 3, 3. And and this is okay because this is a safe place. 3 more dreams, more dreams. How who in this space put a 4 in here if you just think it's too late to dream, or like your dream has passed, it's too late for the dream, or there's no sense in dreaming? Anybody feel that way? Because it's okay. I want you to be able to be real and share what's important to you, share how you feel. Um, because that's the other thing. I think a lot of times when we get into spaces like this, we don't always, we always want to bring I don't, we want to bring our representative instead of our real self. And like my thing is, I am straight no chaser. I am so that girl. I've been that all my life. Like I'm not going to like half ass it, or tell you a half truth. Like the parts that I got. And the parts that I don't, I'm working on. And then there's some parts that I'm like, nope, not gonna do that. I'm just not gonna do that. Or like I'm not ready to do that yet. So, allowing yourself the grace to show up authentically as yourself, because I think that when we come, like I said, into rooms and spaces like this, I think it's really important to make the most of those opportunities. And there's some amazing people on this app, and I was just so delighted and humbled to be invited to come and share. And so my thing is, ask your questions, share your truth, trust that somebody is here for you, trust that that you're not alone, trust that people care about what is happening to you, because I think those of us who show up and share definitely are doing this from a place of love, from a place of knowing what our gifts are, and from a place of knowing and wanting to serve. And the thing that I believe, because I do so deeply believe in dreams, is that I believe that we are all uniquely gifted and wired to touch and impact lives. And it doesn't matter if it's one life, 10 lives, or 1,000 lives. If there's one person that we can reach, each one of us, there's one person that we were put on this earth to touch their life, to reach them, to impact them, then that's what we're here for. And so if you've gotten off the track, or if you feel stuck or confused or overwhelmed or whatever that is, when you come into these spaces, speak your truth, ask your questions, get the support that you need. And if you have a circle, oh, no pun intended, if you have a circle, if you have a circle, your own inner circle, begin to commit, create those places of those circles of healing, the circle of life, the circle of growth, the circle of evolution, so that you have the support that you need. And it doesn't have to be a lot of places, a lot of people. So on this pathway to peace, when we're looking at, well, what would peace look like for me? And so for me, like in my meditative practice, I meditate in a lot of different ways. Sometimes I meditate and I visualize. And so sometimes I'm visualizing something that I want to see happen. And other times I'm just visualizing a place and a space. And one of my favorite places to go is I went on a silence retreat to a hermitage in Big Sur. And it was one of the most transformative places I've ever been. And so when life starts lifing and just spinning around, and like, if I can't get to water or a place physically, then I can go to that meditative place and find that peace. And I think that, again, that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves, is when we create the peace within, so that I'm not looking for peace. I'm radiating peace. I'm generating peace. Because if our peace is predicated on outside situations or people changing or situations changing, then we don't have that. But if there's a way that we can go internally and we can go within and create that peace, that is where, that's where the magic happens. That's where the joy happens. And, I just really want to encourage each and every one of you on this call right now, to find the peace, to find that peace where you're like, okay, everything is going crazy, and I'm just going to take a moment and just go within. I'm just going to, pull in, and, and so, like I said, when I talk about having that mindset, yes, I don't look for peace, I emanate peace. Exactly, Jeff. That is so it. Like, you are the peace. We are creating the peace. And like I said, it goes back to our thoughts, bringing each thought into captivity, or looking at each thought as it flows through and saying, does this serve me? Creating those practices that we're quicker to release that doesn't serve us. We're quicker to release, judgment, anger, resentment. It's not that we never experience it. It's that we have a practice and a mindset, if you will, that we say, okay, I'm going to make a choice. And again, if you need to sit with it for a minute, that is so fine. That is so fine. I have a friend right now whose father just transitioned, and he's grieving. And yet, even in his grieving, like he's putting up some really hysterical posts because he and his father had this wonderfully wicked sense of humor. And so part of his grieving and even honoring his father is he'll come up with these crazy, you know, thoughts or ideas. And he'll say, you know, well, my father would have said blah, 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 right? I thought da, 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 da. And then there's other days that he's just like, I just need you guys to send me some love. And so he gets to run the gamut, and nobody gets to tell him, well, you can't make jokes. Your dad just died. And like his thing is, my father and I, that was the thing that kept us going. That was the thing that made us feel close. And so, again, the choices that we get to make and the ownership that we get to take of our journey, our thoughts, our minds, our emotions, all of those things, you know, we have the power to do what means most to us, what matters most to us, and what is for our highest good. So I just want to check in and take a temperature of the room. If you're not ready to unmic or whatever, if there's anybody who has a question and you want to put it in the chat, I will definitely check it there. Happy to do that. And just give me one word, everybody in here, if there was one word that you want to focus on, one word for your life, one word for this season, one word for your dream, or one word for your transition, what would that word be? What would the word, oh, I'm raising my own hand. How about that? What would the word be? Hope, myself, love that. Yes. Guilt. Okay, got you. Guilt. Yes, guilt. Now. Yes, yes, absolutely. Content, content. Cycle breaker. Yes, acceptance, growth. Not hope, hopeless. Got you. Movement, movement. All these are all so wonderful. And you know, if I could just speak into a couple of them, what I would say is that as we look at what, you know, what being content is, you know, what acceptance is, you know, because there's a difference between accept acceptance and resignation, you know, because and I love the word acceptance because there's a sense of power in that, you know, whereas you know you're owning how you choose or how you move or you know whatever that is, and even to the sense of hopelessness. Like I think that we've all been there at one point or another. And what I will say too is like my grandmother used to always say everybody gets a turn at the wheel. And you know, chances go round. Like so there will be times when you're up and there's times when you're down. And that like that time of not even daring to hope because you don't feel like you can deal with not one more disappointment or one more betrayal or one more whatever that word is. And yet, you know, when we look at those ways in which life keeps showing up for us, love keeps showing up for us, and we have the opportunity to even show up for ourselves. And if it's just, and I was just watching, there's a wonderful woman on TikTok, and she identifies as neurodivergent. And what she said was that today is a day of enough. And so if I said I was going to exercise and I did one push up, that's enough. If I said I was going to fold the laundry and I folded one towel, today that's enough. And so not putting so much on ourselves that we overwhelm ourselves, and yet instead we find those moments to celebrate our victory, to celebrate our tenacity, to celebrate the fact that we even showed up in this room, the thing that we showed up. If we're, if we're breaking cycles, if we're looking to get information, if we're looking to grow, and we keep showing up. So let me just take this moment to first thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to be of support and be of service. Thank you for that. And then let me just say, I honor you. I celebrate you. I celebrate anybody who shows up in these spaces, who shows up in these forums, because you have made a decision that you're willing to look for another way. You're willing to be open to another answer. You're willing to find whatever it is within you, no matter how big or how small, that you just friggin' showed up. Like, this is all I got. Today, this is enough. You showing up is enough. And again, I want to celebrate you because you didn't have to. You could have made another choice, and yet you're here. And so from that, you know, I will hold space. I will hold space for change. I will hold space for growth. I will hold space for hope. I will hold space for joy for for you, because that is the work that I do. I don't come on a stage, in a room, on a course without making sure that I am coming to serve and I am coming to bear witness. And sometimes that's all we need, is somebody to bear witness of ourselves to ourselves and reflect the gift and the greatness. That's why I love mirror work so much. That when we can get in the mirror and tell ourselves that we love us, I love you. I love you. And even if it doesn't feel like that, when we do the tapping, at that center place, and we just say, I love you, and you just love for that moment, again, it's enough. So, one of the things that I do want to share with you is a resource that I have that I believe will serve you. I have a 21-day mindset reset that I'm going to share a link to, that you can definitely go and check it out. I actually created this back during COVID, because so many people were so overwhelmed and didn't know what was happening and didn't know what was coming next. And so it is a downloadable workbook that has, daily practices and questions and journaling prompts and different things like that. So if it's something that may serve you, you can take a look at it. It's I believe it's 1997, and you can go and take a look. I've had so many people who have had such good work and good fortune with it, and it's a great starting place. So if you don't know where to start, like I said, it'll give you some journal prompts, and it'll give you some ideas, and it'll give you some mantras and all of those things. And so, I just want you to just keep showing up as the best and highest version of yourself. Keep trusting and believing that what is in you is for you. If you thought about it, like, again, I said, and I believe somebody typed it in there for me, our dreams are the roadmap to our destiny. That if we have a dream, the dream is not sent to frustrate us. The dream is sent to let us know, oh, wow, there's something here for me. There's something that I'm supposed to do. Somebody asked the question, how do I go back and listen to this recording for this session? And Jeff, can you jump in and answer that question, please?
I sure can, Ross. Thank you. The session is going to be available on Circle's Spotify for sharing. And while you continue to wrap up, Ross, or continue to talk, I'll find the link, put it in the chat, and everybody can copy it and then follow it. But they can also, if they miss it tonight, they can go to Spotify, look up Circle Support, and you'll find the session from tonight on there.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yay. Cool. So yeah, if you're, the biggest takeaway that I hope that everybody leaves with today is that the pathway to peace is your choice. You have a choice, and it's not that wagging your finger, you have a choice. You could do, it's not that. the choice and the power and the joy and the beauty in being able to choose is first and foremost, you get to choose you. If nobody else chooses you, you get to choose you. And I think that there are times in life, when we've had that hurt, when we've had that disappointment, when we've had that betrayal, or even if we've made the poor choices that have put us in a place that we are not comfortable in right now, we still get to choose to love ourselves. We still get to choose to forgive ourselves. We still get to choose to know that if it came to us, it's going to come through us. So that dream that we have, that discomfort that we have, even that disappointment that we have, like we don't want to dwell on the disappointment, but the disappointment does tell us we're meant for more. And so if you have those moments where, and I usually don't do a lot around disappointment because, and that's a whole nother thing that I could talk on, but since that word came up, I'm going to believe that it's appropriate for now. That if you have those moments where there is a dissatisfaction with what happened or where you are or what you're doing, those are just growing pains. Those are signals to let you know that there's more for you, there's more to you, there's more coming. Greater is coming, greater is within you. So you get to keep moving through that process, moving through that growth. And I told my kids this for years. I've only given birth to two kids, but I've got a ton of kids who call me mom. And I tell them all the time that failure is just information. Failure does not define us. And what I tell, like when I used to work with dancers or the artists that I worked with, that if you don't fall or you don't fail, that actually means you're probably not trying hard enough. So don't beat yourself up for failure. It's when you take a risk. It's when you step out and go beyond your comfort zone that you may fail. And whatever it is, whatever that choice is, and then there's so many different things that I could speak to, and I'm not going to because I'm not going to presume anybody's journey. And yet I'm going to say that as you choose, as you grow, as you make that 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 move that did not work out or that choice that did not work out, then you can still say, I can forgive myself, I can move on, and I can take that failure as information. I thought I saw a raised hand somewhere. Did I see a raised hand?
Yeah, it's me, lady. Um,
Hey.
you said something about the path to peace. What was that again?
So I said a lot about the path to peace. So there were a couple. There were a couple. I said the path to peace is through forgiveness. The path through peace is through accepting and making a choice to own the our part in whatever the situation is. So that we can't change anybody else. We can only change ourselves.
Mm.
And then the other one was the choices that we make around mindset, the thoughts that we think, the words that we speak. And so the the totality of it, if I needed to sum it up in one way, I would say that the pathway of peace always comes down to us taking ownership of our choices, us taking ownership to only focus our energy on that which we can change, and us taking that initiative to set our minds, our hearts, and our intention on what is the next right step for our greatest and highest good. Did that help?
Yeah, it's something that kind of came to mind. I was thinking about earlier today was like sometimes when we are so accustomed to toxicity and stress and abuse and like these high stress environments. It's like sometimes peace can become foreboding, like, because I think when we have moments of peace, we're just kind of waiting for the next bad thing to happen, you know what I mean?
I do. And it's so interesting that you're saying that because I had said a little earlier that we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. And so when we're in situations that we're looking and waiting for the next shoe to drop or the bad thing to happen or this is too good to be true, when we engage in that mindset, that speaking, that energy, then we will absolutely bring that to us. And I know that what it takes a long time. Well, it can't. I'm not even going to say that. I'm going to watch my words. It can take a while for toxicity to transition and that you move through it and away from it. And so that when we're in those situations, again, it comes back down to, okay, what part of this situation can I control? And that other part of it, and what part of this situation can I release? And then what part of this situation do I need to change? And so, and then what do I need? What steps do I need to take? So again, whether when we start with the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to set my intention, then the next step is, where do I need help? Where do I need support? Where do I need coaching or counseling or guidance or protection or whatever that is, so that we make the move from where we are to where we want to be? And yet the first thing comes through mindset, the first thing comes through thought, the first thing comes through intention, and then it's in speaking it. And then again, we need to know who we're speaking it to, because if we're speaking it to somebody who's not going to change, then we're speaking to the wrong person. Because again, the only person we can speak to is ourselves. And then if we need support to get to where we want to be, then that's how we begin to do that. So we start seeking out those people who can support us, who can affirm us, who can guide us, and who can direct us. And we move to the next great iteration of ourselves. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, Jeff.
Thanks, Roz. I need to bounce. What a wonderful time. I don't know about you all, friends, but I got pages of notes. Thank you for being here, number one. Number two, everybody, I put the link to the Circle Spotify in the chat. I would please copy it if I were you, drop it over into a note, because the chat, as you know, will disappear after our conversation tonight, and then you can follow up and listen to all of tonight's session with Roz. Coach, thank you for being on. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah. So cool. So we just got a couple of more minutes. Are there any more thoughts, final thoughts, ideas, whatever? And for some reason, I can't go to my chat, so I can't see what you're saying. If you're chatting with me, yes, Lisa, please.
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but since you can't see it, I'll tell you. My love of my life transitioned a year ago on the 16th of June. And I think that it's poignant that I hear this message today, because I really needed it.
Oh, yay, yay. Well, I'm happy to be of service. I'm so grateful that you're here, and just humbled and honored that I was able to serve and that you were willing to share. So thank you so, so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just continue peace and gentle blessings as you process the transition and process who you become in this next iteration of your journey as well. Sending you so much light and love, so much light and love. And so look, if anybody else put something in the chat, please unmic and tell me, because for some reason I can't get to the chat right now. And if not, we'll just, begin to wind down. I will be here same time next week. We'll continue this conversation around pathways to peace. We'll continue to, I'll continue to share other techniques and concepts and ideas. Like I said, if you want to look at that 21-day mindset reset, copy that link, check it out. I would love to serve you that way. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank everybody for being here. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for the love. I so appreciate each and every one of you. And again, I am holding space, holding you in my prayer meditation space and celebrating every good and perfect thing that is coming to you and through you. And just know that, as my grandmother used to say, trouble don't last always. So be well, be blessed, and I look forward to seeing you. Please come back next week. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Peace.